Patrick, you own this Quest inventory data folder right here. Ironically, it's under Quest inventory data all this time, right? So the important folders that are here is going to be analysis queries, it's going to be design documents, and it's going to be mapping documents. Some of the security stuff is there. We could get into that later. SSIS load, we can get into all that stuff later. But for the first start, you probably want to look at mapping documents and design documents. Under design documents, you're going to have these ones that are like inventory reporting SOP. That's probably the one that you care about the most. The AODs and all that stuff is not a big deal. Just the inventory, the SOPs that are there. I have one up. I have the SOP right here, 16. I won't go into, read this verbatim, but this is what kind of the mission was for inventory reporting. It's changed. It's definitely changed since then. But this is going to tell you the stuff that's the focus of the business. It tell you, hey, they're interested in the inventory ages. They're looking at these different things like received claim age, location age. They don't care that much about days till deadline anymore, but they do care about the adjustment age and the system processing age. So those things are definitely reflected in the reporting tool. And if those things they generally don't have a problem with that because those are pretty static as far as the code and what it's doing. But they're definitely Howard Roche and like the director level, they are definitely looking at, especially the received claim age, because there's a 30-day interest deadline on that kind of stuff. The individual managers are looking at the location age, and they will definitely, if something's off, they will definitely be contacting you guys to try and get something fixed. The group owners, we'll get into it a little bit later, but long story short, those names that you'll have, the people that are assigned to those queues, that's an important function of Cirt, which kind of makes it stand out from many other tools, is that it's not just a bucket, but there's an actual person that they know to go to when there's they see that inventory is too high. People can look up their own queues and things to that effect. So assignment is very big for this kind of stuff. And then also the other part is not just who's assigned to it, but who's their manager. So that means directors can look at all their reports underneath them. VPs can look at under their reports under them, supervisors and so forth. The tables that it's looking towards for information is going to be coming from the claim tables, the claim tables, institutional claim header, professional claim header, all that. This should probably say detail, honestly. Institutional claim detail, professional claim detail, that type of stuff. Provider master, member master, hold reason. Interest rules is how we calculate forecasting or do the forecasting of the interest. Claims header summary plays a part. Zip codes is a part of the forecasting. Vendor address, part of forecasting. Zip code is part of forecasting again. Then, of course, they have these tables, which I think you guys are pretty aware of. I would think so. And then for workflow, almost all of the information is going to come from this table right here. The other part is that it's also getting employee information from LDAP. And that LDAP process is kind of pretty much already set up, but it could, in the future, it could kind of break or something like that or whatever. But there is a folder that the developers have to be aware of and what it's doing. It is kind of tied to some of the services that you guys are doing. So if this breaks, it could break some of the stuff that you're doing and vice versa. So you do definitely need to be aware of that. And I think Patrick is aware when something happened before, we were calling up and we were trying to do things. We were noticing certain things going on. What was happening with that, Patrick? Somebody was doing testing or something like that. How did that get resolved? can't remember.
What was it? I don't remember, Malik.
Yeah, there was an LDAP. Remember, we were saying, "Hey, are you guys doing something, a new service?" We had Swapna looking at it and all kind of other stuff. A year or two last year. It had to do with the LDAP because it was a shared. It was something shared across the departments, and it was another team that was doing it. We found them, and they were testing. It was messing up, and every day at like 3 a.m, something was kicking off for them, and it was shutting, and they were using the wrong password, and try until.
Oh yeah, it was Doreen. It was Sean Wilson. Under Doreen.
Sean
Doreen.
Wilson.
Not Willison. Sean Wilson.
Oh.
He's
Okay.
the PIO under. I think there was locking the ID at.
Yeah, that's what was happening, and we had, they had to stop that, so locking the ID every day. Yep. So, but it was because this was created under Quest. It doesn't have a separate Cirt thing or whatever for what was going on. That's what I learned. So, when you're doing testing, and if there's anything regarding some of those services or whatever it was using, I don't think it was directly with LDAP, but somehow it gets to LDAP. But Jeff is going to have to tell you more about that. But it does use Active Directory to get all the information. The queues that they have. So once we have all that information, what it's going to do is it's going to kind of iterate through it. It's going to summarize. It and make sure that it provides a report that you actually see when I showed you that report or whatever, providing all of this information. Now, I think a lot of it's grown since then, but this is the base information that they see at a glance. Like as soon as a page comes up, they're looking for like these kinds of things right here. In the EDW, this is going to be going away, but this is where our ICN and CBL information comes from. The table called Inquiry WIP, which is work in progress, and Inquiry Finalized, which is all the completed work. And this is where all the names of the queues and stuff like that come from here. I'll get to this in a bit because I'm going to walk you through show you the data that's in these tables right here for Cirt. And I'm not going to because I can't speak to this exactly. I can speak to it a little bit and navigate it a bit, but I can't speak to it enough that if you had a lot of questions, I would be able to answer them. So I'm not going to go over SSIS or anything like that right now. The locations that you have to be aware of, you're going to need to get access to claims domain dev, claims domain test, claims domain stage. You don't need anything for ad hoc because that never went through. You also need access to the front end for these. You don't need access to the front end for these because these are going to come with that request that you guys put in. You need to make sure that you can see the data on the back end for these tables here at least, at a minimum. So that's why it's important to check, because I've worked with security to make sure that when a request for production is there, that you also can see the tables in the background, at least those. But I think that you're going to have to be added to a group because you're going to have to look at the data directly in the tables a little bit more. Get PHI access to not just the view, but the actual table. Let's talk about that later. Before I move on, is there any questions or concerns so far?
Not for me.
No.
Okay. This gets into the security process a little bit. I'll skip over this part with it. And let me just go over just a little bit. In general, the gist of this is, as we once it gets to SQL Server is going to do a check using Kerberos technology, the Kerberos method, to say, okay, you're at your computer, you've logged in as Malik, your RACF is 123, and then it passes that 123 onto the page, and then it will do a check in the background to CSA and say, okay, you're Malik 123. Malik has, in its return, has access to FEP, has access to state, does not have access to blue card or whatever, right? So when you go to view the page, it's going to basically do what's the equivalent of a left join, and it's going to say, hey, this data where Malik has access to state and FEP, but not blue card, and so only it'll only show the PHI for those ones that you have access to. So that's kind of the way the Kerberos works. So it's using not kernels, tokens. I think it's token methodology. So it is Kerberos. You have to know that when you're dealing with SQL Server admins, right? Hey, we're using the Kerberos to authenticate stuff, or whatever, because when they do upgrades, sometimes that security gets turned off while they're doing the upgrade and doesn't get turned back on. And so you got to let them. And not everybody is using Kerberos authentication, so it's a lot of times it doesn't get discovered for a long time after an upgrade of some sort. So this is a gist of all the entitlements that they have currently. I think there's some more that are coming up, but in sensitive group is not enforced right now. It's turned off because that was going to be when procedure codes or diagnosis codes are in there. But the gist of it is that if there's a record and we see on a claim that it's FEP, and then we see that it's state or whatever, and the member is employee group, well, the highest one that we're going to apply for this is going to be state right here. In here, the one is going to be FEP. So we're going off of the things, depending on where we find it, there's a hierarchy of saying, okay, we're going to basically is trying to take the most conservative step to applying the entitlement to a record, because we have 3 different sources for what that entitlement could be. Does that make sense?
It does to me. So you're saying every claim that comes in, if a claim has multiple of these, like it's got a sensitive code, it's an FEP, it's an employee group, there has to be a prioritization determined, because there's only one place to put what that case really is to test against the user logging in to see it. You can only pick one of those to test, so that's why you prioritize it like that.
Exactly. Wow. Yep. Wow. Yeah. I expected to spend more time on that, but yeah, exactly.
Well, no, I remember a little bit about this.
Yeah.
Have to digest it, but Blue Card Host and Home, it's separate. I know those are 2 separate things, but there's 2 separate entitlements for Blue Card Home versus Host. But they both fall under BCH in this table, I guess.
Yes, they do. But technically, so that was the thing with BCH, because remember, it could be Blue Card Home, but it's not going to be Blue Card Home for us, right? That's just our regular member, right? So someone calling, right, the member calling, it's going to be generic for that call, right? At a member level, it's just going to be like, for instance, generic. If they have a HMO, right? That just requires a generic entitlement. But if it came through Blue Card process, right, it's going to have the Blue Card. No wait, the Blue Card indicator. What is the name of that indicator? It's going to be BCP or whatever, right?
ITS type indicator.
Yeah, ITS type indicator. Yeah, that right there. And then, the way that it comes in through ITS, it might get marked as BCH. And the BCH is really mostly going to be for the for the EDW stuff. So we have to force it to be kind of a BCH type of deal, because on the claim, naturally, it's not going to have a BCH line of business, right? There's no BCH line of business. There's just HST, and then we'll have whatever it is, HMO or whatever it is. So we have to kind of derive that. That makes sense.
Well, just one quick question. Like I'm looking at that second row. So claim entitlement FEP, inquiry entitlement SAO.
Second row.
Second row.
Okay.
Yep. So I guess my question is, did FEP approve this? I mean, so basically we're saying that if you get an FEP claim,
okay, so this is the hierarchy, right? State group is the highest, FEP is the third, is second, right? Employee group is third, BCH is fourth, unknown is fifth, and then generic is last.
Yeah, I just can't believe that FEP would allow state to supersede them in this check. But I guess they all agreed to it, right? I mean, does it ultimately mean that it's possible for a non-FEP person to see an FEP claim in these reports because maybe that person has SAO, but they don't have FEP, but there is an FEP claim? I mean,
no, it's generally, because we've never had that scenario where someone had both state and FEP, right? Where someone, I guess we've never...
Well, it'd have to be one of those things like we said before, like, once state, always state, or in the past state, always state. Maybe one of those kind of things that would.
Yeah. Oh, so now that you mentioned, I think this came up. We were talking with Quest with you, and the reason. So FEP used to be higher in priority, but state group has something in their clause that has to do with one state, always state. And I remember, didn't that come from Quest with you guys looking at your stuff or whatever?
Yes, there was something.
That was it was something that changed that, because I think that's even still down here. No, it's that. I've got to go back. I got to go back and check my emails. It was because hierarchy we provided first was FEP was the highest, state was second.
Yes.
And that somehow that changed because of some rules. We went through because we had to go. And it took a good bit of time. We had to check the member record and look for state anywhere in all of their
past history
since in their history. And if it was found, then it has to mark it as state.
That's what I remember as well. So I remember.
So because I definitely always felt FEP, but FEP is kind of just. With their contract, they're a little more lax. I think you just can't be out of the country with their information. I think state group has a lot more restrictions, although FEP has a lot more conditions with their whole contract as far as paying, pricing, and things that have to be done with it or whatever. And they're about to do that VIP thing or whatever. But state has just seems to be a little more strict with actually the security who can access it and when. So, but I have to come back to, now that you mentioned that, I need to come back to those rules because I'm curious of why we changed that. And and I have to check because there was a period of time that I was not here on Cirt, so I don't know if that changed back or what. Because I do know that we had to do a lot with FEP, and then later on while I was gone, there was something came up regarding FEP, and I don't know all the things that had changed. This is just a sample guide of that same, what we just showed you there before, but it's kind of the priority, right? So.
Okay. Just one thing I wanted to just bring up real quick, and I really apologize for this, but at 4 o'clock, I've got to drop for another meeting that I didn't expect to have to attend, but I do have to attend it. So I guess, we can probably continue on if you guys can continue listening, but, and then now I have another meeting from 4:30 to 5 as well. So I don't want to interrupt the flow, but I'm going to log off at 4. I'll let you know when I'm logging off, Malik, and I'll just set up another session a couple days out for the next thing. But sure. Appreciate it. You keep going.
Sure. Yeah, this is just when you go through, you can ask me questions. You guys can contact me on the side or whatever. But this is just what was before. I think went over everything else. This is just the 80 groups that you guys are already part of. At least this one, and you've got requests for all of these. This will take care of. This is just going to give you the Kerberos allow the Kerberos authentication once you get access to be able to view your token and see who you are, so it can apply these different things. This is the actual. You can go out there to yourself if you're ever going out to network and you've said, hey, I want to see what groups people are part of. You can go to these entitlements under those when you look up those actual AD groups, and you can see these guys right here. This is what the system is actually querying. It's querying this actual in CSA. It's going to query this and look for your name, and then so this will tell it return a code of 1 or 2, and it's going to say, okay, 1, you're part of this group. I'm sorry, not 1 or 2, 0 or 1. 1, you're part of this group. 0, you're not. That means that when in the report, if you can see this data, remember that left join, that means that yes, you're part of that, and you can be able to see that data for EMP. We associated.
Which job is this, Malik? Which job pulls this LDAP data? Is it Oracle job?
This is not going to be an LDAP. This is not LDAP that does this. This is real time. This is real time in the background of SQL Server.
Okay.
So there's Active Directory groups.
Yeah,
so and it's just a call for a RACF that tells whether it's a member of that or not.
Right. Yeah, I'll see if I have that. I don't have it there. I've got a page on it. I got an architecture diagram that shows what it's doing. So and then I'll either talk about it next tomorrow,
okay,
or I will forward it to you so you can see the general understanding of what it's doing. But basically, it makes every time somebody clicks on not the general data, not this right here. It's not calling every time. So what I just showed you here, it's not going to call for this because there's no PHI data being presented at this first page. But the call goes out once you right click on here and you say, hey, I want to see all the specific data for, let's say, these held claim cases, and you right click on it and say, give me the details. Well, PHI is included in that, and then it makes a call and says, hey, can they see FEP? Can they see employee group? And if for everything that comes back with yes, it'll show those. It'll show the PHI data for that, and the ones that don't, it'll just show X's for that actual PHI data, but show everything else. So really, it's just a way of kind of masking the PHI data so we don't get hit with security audits. Did that make sense? I hope I said that in the right way. But yeah. So, but the gist that I want you to know about is these are the actual entitlements that they're looking at. And so, if someone says I can't see FEP data, you would go to this entitlement and see if they're in it, and they'll save you a lot of time because it's like, hey, it's not broken, you're not in there, and a lot of times security may have put you in the wrong thing, or they might have done something where you're not there or whatever, So, cool. The backend report data viewing it, which everybody, when you did your request, this is what comes standard. So this allows you to see the report. This is an access that gets to even though it says no access to backend tables, that's kind of for the business users. It does give you backend access to the table. This is going to give access to the non-production environments here. Read-only access. This is going to give read-only access for Swapna or other developers that's going to be working on it. You're going to need this DB developer because this is going to give you access to virtually all the tables there and be able to see any problems. So These two are read for production, read for development, and this is going to be write for this in the dev environment. There should be one more. Yep, and this is going to be write for the production environment. Cool so far?
Yeah, so you need to access, you need to create.
Yes, and that is going
these
to
ID
be,
groups, right?
So so this is going to be, this one in particular is going to, if they have trouble, call me up, because you almost have to word it just right, because they're going to ask FEP, hey, is it okay for this person to have it? They're going to have full access to an unrestricted access to PHI data. And FEP, if you work with them, they're very protective of their data. Mm-hmm. Everybody else will sign off. Some state might ask a couple questions, but generally they're fine. But FEP is going to be like, well, what is it for? What is, every time. So, and sometimes they'll even just deny it outright. So just gotta be careful.
Yeah.
Another thing to be familiar with is these are the application IDs that are going out. So when Cirt is going out and pulling from Oracle, from the other tables in Oracle and Quest and everything like that or whatever, it's using this application ID. So when adding tables and databases or data it needs to pull, it has to run under these guys in the proper environment. So at times if you're doing testing as a developer, when you want to see if something's running right, you're going to have to run as that application ID, which means you need to have the application password and have this name right here.
So are these application IDs in CA-PAM?
In where?
Is CA-PAM tool?
I don't
retrieve the password.
I don't know. I have to ask Jeff. I don't think so. But I have these passwords. I have these passwords for you guys.
So how do you retrieve those passwords? Are those like not changing every 60 days?
No.
No?
No.
Okay, then those are not in CA-PAM then.
Yeah, so these are these right here. Okay. Now, so you've got to be careful with them because these are audited, right? So you can use it to run for tests and stuff like that, but when you use it, security will know, right? So you've got to be overly careful with these guys. When you run this app ID and password on your local device, on your local computer, it tags it. They don't give you a problem, right? Unless something comes up. But, they are very much aware that you are using an application ID password to do stuff. But we've got prior clearance to run things for testing and all kind of other stuff. Because you can't, especially in production, that's a way to do testing. You're going to find out very quickly that there's specific specific testing that you're going to have to do regarding production data while not running it in production. So, not running it live in production, I should say. Mm-hmm. You might have to take production data and put it in a test environment, right? You might say, okay, good.
I didn't think we were allowed to do that.
You have to get permission. You have to get permission before, yes. Because, and I'll tell you exactly one time, it's come up several times. Hey, you've got some kind of data. Remember yesterday I talked about the person that's got over 40 characters for a last name, right? Mm-hmm. Occurring in production, trying to find out. They say, hey, this thing comes through and stuff like that or whatever. But you can't recreate, everything that went up, that came about for that wasn't able to be recreated in test, right?
Okay.
And they had a couple other scenarios where people were doing things where it was breaking the system, and we had to literally recreate the stuff in test. But some of those things were coming from other systems that we don't have the ability to manipulate, right? And so saying, okay, well, we need to see, and some of it was interacting with other production data. So in order to really look at it and test it real time, because what happens is every day the production environment it deletes and refreshes itself. So that type of thing. So in a reporting environment saying, okay, we're going to take this for this day, we're going to recreate this test data and we're not talking just, hey, we just want to do something new, we need to test. We're talking where it's very specific.
Mm-hmm.
You see what I'm saying? So, Yep. So, but other than that, yes, stage to stage, test to test, unit to unit, all that other stuff. And these are I gave for the reporting database. This is when you're trying to log into these guys right here, to make sure that things are working well. And also when you're logging into, you see here how I've got the 9631 and 1680 and stuff like that or whatever. That's these things right here. The key is SQL database development, SQL stage, SQL production database, those type of things. And this 931 is the version that it's working off of. And those things do go up, like when they go to a new server, you will get a new number and things like that. It's a little bit different than Oracle for some reason. Questions or concerns so far? Okay. This is the link to the page. You guys have seen a copy of this page already. You've seen a copy of this already. Seen the utilization. Don't have to care about this. This was orphan claims. We kind of stopped that. We have stopped that. So this is important. So this gets back to a little bit. I think it was yesterday. I can't remember who it was, Swapna or something like that. I was going to go over this, but this is the architecture diagram of how Cirt is working, and kind of the overview of what it's doing every day. So the first step is it's going to be pulling from the first part of the day. It's going to pull from inventories in the DOOR schema, the Quest schema, and workflow, and it's going to bring them in and put them into this schema, CIR, CLM, RPT. It does a little bit of it extracts just the data that it wants, but it doesn't quite do any formatting yet. It's just getting raw data from there. After that, it's going to get from Active Directory all the records. It's going to say, hey, all these RACS that I've got for all this work, it's going to pull all the information from Active Directory regarding those people and load it in here as well. It's going to do the same thing for EDW and Guidewell Data Platform. It's going to then bring those records in. So you remember yesterday I said you saw that Quest starts at 3, the inquiry starts at 5. I think it starts a little bit after. I think it starts like 5 or something like that. 5 o'clock in the morning. There is a request out from the business to bring in EIP claims, which is paper claims. There is code in there to do that, but it was stopped. So this is not happening right now. There was code to bring in Blue Squared. That has stopped, so that's not in there right now. So 5 and 6 are not there. So all those things come into here. And once it's in here, it will do a few things in preparation for sending it over to SQL Server. It's going to start looking at and start doing assigning. It's going to say who's the assignment people. That's for all the groups. It's going to start working on the interest calculations. And I'm missing something. Oh, misroutes. It's going to start looking and seeing who's got misroutes in Quest. And I think that's it. Then after that, it's going to it's going to bring everything over to forget the data mart, because that data mart is turned off right now. It's going to start bringing the records over to SQL Server, and it's just a drop over into SQL Server. But while it's doing that, it's going to mark things as over 30. It's going to make sure that things that do that hierarchy where it says, hey, this is Malik's boss and Malik's boss's boss, and here's all the way up to the VP. It's going to start marking things over. When I say mark things over 30, it's going to have location age over 30. Start making that, say that's a high. If it's received days is over 30, make sure that that's high. It's going to start categorizing certain things. Say you're within this time range, and I can't remember what else. This is also where it starts translating that data entitlement to those AD groups. So once it gets in there, it says, okay, based off of this, I see that you have EMP. That's where I know that it needs to be associated with this type of AD group when somebody logs in, that type of stuff. So all that happens in 8, and then also the final version is in 11. It's going to have all the entitlements. It's going to have all the report data together. And then from there, you just see it on the Power BI interface where somebody is able to look at it. The other part here was the data mart, and you guys probably, I don't think you guys have ever seen it, but that was 9, 10, 12, and 14 are basically turned off right now. That was way, way bigger and way more complex stuff. Or basically, it's what Kibana has for claims inventory. Users then use Power BI. They look at what they want to see, but they also will say, okay, I don't have my type of queues or locations. I don't see them assigned to me. The ones that should be assigned to me aren't assigned to me. They'll actually turn in a spreadsheet with the locations that need to be assigned to them, which then needs to be uploaded back into the VPAN repair table, and then which will also update the assignee table for the reporting. So, any questions on the architecture?
Malik, you said the Quest jobs are loading at 3 a.m., right? Those jobs start at 3. Do you remember why it is at 3 a.m.? Because ad hoc refresh completes at 1 a.m., right?
No, not fully. Not even close. Okay. So, yeah, we tried it at 1 a.m. So it starts at around, what, 12 o'clock?
Yeah.
11:59, right?
Uh-huh.
It takes more than an hour for it to fully finish. There's stuff that's going on. In fact, I think your team are doing things, or Quest is doing things early in the morning. Like, for instance, what's the thing that you do, Swap? No, what's the Rhonda's thing was doing automation robot something. It happens first thing in the morning. What's the tables? We gotta, because we had to do no owner for that. Where people, when there's no one assigned to the actual swap.
Oh, you mean the open span? You mean open
span? Yeah, like stuff like that. Yeah, like things like that or whatever. You do that first thing that's working first thing in the morning, correct?
Well, I think what he's talking about is like, because we don't put the cases held claim for BPA, right? We don't put them in any
BPA, that's it. Yeah.
He's checking BPAN table to see, if it exists there, he's going to put it under a different queue, so it'll still reflect on these reports, right? Because there's no queue assigned.
Exactly.
But that doesn't happen in the morning, though.
So it was at 3 o'clock because some of the things that was holding up was saw Quest stuff happening first thing in the morning, like going into these different queues, I guess, for people or whatever, right? So there's a lot of movement of work first thing in the morning. Some of the finance stuff wasn't finished.
And OpenSpan does get their list. Once VO ad hoc is done refreshing, they get their list of claims they can work, and then they start calling us. But to see, can I work this? Is it in a group queue? Is it in an individual queue? But Yeah, I don't know what else would. I don't know why that.
Yeah, because
that
our jobs will be running. Most of the jobs will be running 24/7.
It's not like we're doing a whole bunch of stuff right
Yeah,
in the morning.
yeah. And robots also, they run all day. It's not just.
Yeah, but that's why. I mean, you could come back to that if 1 o'clock is because we wanted to start.
Because I was checking, BO ad hoc refresh when it was completing. I see at 1:05. Yesterday and today I checked. It was completing around 1 o'clock. 1:05.
Yeah, that's fine. It's like I said, we gave it that plus a little bit of buffer.
Okay.
So but I definitely because at one point in time, in fact, I think what we were trying to do was also catch that in Data Guard. So for all the stuff that were super early, like after the refresh or whatever, because we were like, hey, why are these things not adding up? And they were like, oh, well, there's a whole bunch of stuff going on before people come in for work that day or whatever, right? So, but what time did we initially have it at? Because I think we even had it later than 3 at one point in time. We tried to get it as late as possible, as close to when people would be logging in. But then it was taking a long time to run, so we bumped it up a little bit closer to when it's finished refreshing. And I think we didn't want to go any closer than 3 at that time.
Okay.
So, yeah, it's nothing but a easy change to just say, instead of run at 3, run at 1, right? Or 1 at 2, that type of stuff. So, and if you go to Data Guard, it doesn't matter, So there's a whole template and code. Well, actually, it's not in there. It's me and Matt. What is Matt's name? He passed away. Matt
Davis.
Huh?
Davis.
Matt Davis. I worked on multiple runs, so that something would run actually before the backup of ad hoc, then just after the backup of ad hoc, then run production several times during the day. So instead of just one static, you get updates, like at run at like 10 o'clock at night, then at 3 in the morning, then at 9 in the morning, then at 12 in the afternoon, then at like 3 or 4 or something like that or whatever. So, for these data entitlement services, like those 80 groups I told you about, here are the people that had to deal with in order to get those requests. Because when you ask for access to these groups, and maybe you guys already have it, or for the application IDs, not all of these people, at least one person from each group has to approve for you and approve for the AD or the AD group. So this is for employee group, this is for FEP, this is for Blue Card, this is for state, and nobody has to approve for general, just your manager. We didn't care about Florida Healthcare Plan, but that might be something now. We got worried about, and these people are probably old. This is an old document, it's like 2020. So, but some of these people are still here working on it. I think Melissa Jackson and Melanie Selvey are still doing state. So
these are the data stewards, right, for those areas, right, that have to approve access. And you're a data steward too, then, right, for just general, I guess, who gets access to these reports, right? You're also that for now.
Yeah, so it's not a data steward, right? I am a application owner for I guess it is a data steward for
application steward. So they're deciding,
something like
Arlene is Honeycutt's discernment, should this person have access to FEP in these reports, and Melissa Jackson State Group in these reports, but should you have access to these reports?
Yeah, it's like this. It's like this. So for these guys, I think if you go, once you do a request, they're going to ask me, can you have this? And then also for these guys, they're going to ask, well, at least this one. They might not, I don't think they care about these guys right here, but for this is mainly when those reports come through, this is what is triggering it to contact me and Tom.
Yeah, your name's on the request. I just filled one out for Krishna. You're going to get for all 4 of these for Krishna soon.
Yep. Mm-hmm. Yep. And so technically, and Tom never looks at it, but I think Jamie Farah, it goes to him somehow because I see him approve it, and sometimes I'll see Joanne approve it.
Yeah, they're delegates for Tom, I think.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and so we asked for. It should have changed to Shelly. Wait, who's your manager, Patrick?
Joanne.
Huh?
Joanne Bryant.
For Joanne, so she'll probably see it. Yeah. So that's one thing that you probably need to get changed is that you're going to be able to approve her. You and or one of your analysts will approve these requests. So, anything else on this on the document? I think the main thing is that it's when you go out here to Quest inventory data, you're going to see a copy of it here under your inventory reporting SOP 16 is the latest version. Let's see. One of the accesses that you got to make sure that you have is access to CIR, CLM, RPT schema in Oracle, in BO ad hoc, in production. In production, BO ad hoc, all the development, all that other stuff where we can get there. Just give you a look at what some of the tables look like in here. So this is the assignee table. This assignee table is what does that association of user ID to the
work item.
The work item. Yep. Mm-hmm.
Hey, let me ask this real quick, Malik. Sure. So these tables are like a staging area in Oracle, right? So we're extracting stuff from Quest, right? The Quest schema, those tables you showed before, claim inventory reporting, which is a CLI inventory. We pull all from there. We load into these tables. It's a staging area where we eventually take the data from here and push to SQL Server. Is that right?
Correct. That is correct. Yep.
Okay. I'm just trying to remember. At least these tables begin with I underscore.
Yeah, I think you were gone when I went over it. So that's the gist of this here, right? It's going to go from here, from 1 into this staging area. It's going to go all this data right here. Once all these things are in this staging area, this is the Quest part right here. Then it's going to go to LDAP and then get all the employee information for the ones that's been collected. And then say, hey, here's your manager, here's all that stuff. Then it's going to go to EDW and Guidewell Data Platform, and it's going to bring those guys in. Then it's going to go to LDAP again and get that for these guys as well, right? Then I'm ignoring these guys because these are not part of the process. And then it's going to do what we said is it's going to apply, it's going to take that data, and as it goes over to SQL Server, forget 9, 10, 12 and 14, it's going to apply a lot of these business rules. It's going to apply, the 30-day. How many days has this been open? Then it says, does that fall within 1 to 20? Does that fall in 20 through 40? Is it 365 plus, right? If that's 3, and then those will say, hey, does that mean that it's a high risk or low risk. It's going to do all the forecasting. It's going to do all that other stuff. And then it's going to start assigning and saying, hey, what about the data entitlements? It's going to take that. Remember what we saw with the PHI workflow that you asked about yesterday, right? It's going to do that here, but as it goes over, it's going to take that and start associating those with those TSA AD groups in this process here. So at the end of this, you have everything all the data that's landed and ready for this Power BI interface to look at. You have all your data entitlements there. You've got stuff so they can start showing green, red, depending on what age, what's the age of the inventory and all that other stuff. Does this make sense?
Yeah, makes good sense. So you mentioned the CIR, CLM, RPT, right? So we need to get access, but you said VO ad hoc, but it's pretty much all of them. It's all the environments, right?
Yep. Yep. Most of the time you'll look in VO ad hoc because it doesn't write to it doesn't write to production. It writes to VO ad hoc every day. So if you go into production, you're not going to see any of this data. It'll be empty.
Now, do we use these in the unit databases too? The HSD, URGQA?
Yeah. We use them there. What I was getting at is the daily process only loads these records to VO ad hoc. It does not load them to VO prod.
Right.
And that is by design.
Yep. I'm just thinking because we need to get some access requests out, I think, for a lot of team members to be able to see this, the tables in the CIR claim report schema. So I just need to know what all environments we need to request it. But it sounds like every Oracle environment, pretty much.
So this is like I said, I think I was going here. So the group owner, that's how you'll know who it is. This assignee ID is supposed to be this is Quest. Like this is saying, hey, it came to the work queue manager. So this is the actual user. But I think some others, once we get out of Quest, the assignee ID is a very specific code for that group name and so forth and so on. And then, this is a group location, and say, hey, the group owner is this RACF. This is coming from the BPAN table. And then for that RACF, they must be a manager, yes. And then their director is this person, and then their VP is, I think that's Howard Crochet right there.
So these group names you are pulling from BPAN table or from the Quest?
They come from Quest, work assignment queue.
Okay.
And the queue ID. You go to the left, the ID is the queue ID.
Okay.
Yeah.
An assignee ID. So if it's a group queue and the person, it has the RACF, I guess. But yeah.
Yep. The person right here, the group owner is the RACF.
That must be pulling because this has commingled the inventory right in both Quest queues and workflow queues.
Yeah. So what it kind of does is it drops the entire table at first, and then it rebuilds it and says, here's all the queues that we got from today, right? Pulls in all the queues, it looks at all the work that it brings in, says here's all the queue information that we came in. It'll list all these records in here, right? And then it'll go out to the BPAN table with this information, this assignee ID, and it'll say I need to get a match. And it's going to match on that. I don't think it matches on the name, but it matches on the ID. And once it finds 1401 in the BPAN table, it'll bring back that group owner and place it in here.
Yeah, it's not the BPAN, it's the work assignment queue, but yes, you're right.
No. It's going to the BPAN table for that.
Oh,
I know
the owner to get the RACF.
The owner to get the RACF.
The owner. Yeah. Well, actually, no. CPL, right? The only ones we store in the BPAN. We don't store in the BPAN, right? Even the owner is on work assignment.
Oh yeah, no, you're right. You're right. I'm sorry. That's for inquiries. You're right. We're going to that. We're going
work
to
assignment queue
the
table.
the assignment. Yeah, for that for here. Yep. You're absolutely correct. I'm sorry.
But you're right. The BPAN has the ICS owners or something over there, right?
CBEL and ICS, Patrick.
Well, now EWC as well.
EWOC as well.
EWOC as well.
Yes.
Remember last year, Krishna did that work and loaded all those guys for EWOC once that went in. So.
Yes. Yeah.
So. If it can't find the person, or like for instance, if it can't find the specific user, it's going to say unknown user, and it's going to try and just keep everything blank. So moving forward, but if something messed up or didn't work, this will show something else other than unknown user. We did this because unknown user helps us know that it did work. It just didn't have a person to sign for this.
So this is Oracle VO ad hoc database, right? Whatever we are pulling from workflow and Quest ad hoc database, it is stored in the CIR, CLMPRT ad hoc database.
That is correct.
Right? From here, with the help of SSIS packages, the data will be loaded into SQL Server production database, right?
That is correct, yes.
Okay. Mm-hmm. Yeah, got it.
Yep. Yep. The iClaim table is just only stores the claim information from everything. So try not to have duplicate claim information in here. There's a cross-reference table. There's a claim association table that'll help to say, like, for instance, if you had the same claim that came from Quest but also came as an inquiry, that cross-reference table will have two of those to the same claim number. So this is just going off of once we have a Quest case or we have an inquiry record, it'll go out and say, okay, what's the claim number that's on that Quest case or inquiry? And it's going to go out to Diamond. It's going to go into professional header or institute. It's going to go to professional header and professional detail and institutional header, institutional detail, and it's going to start bringing these things in right from the claim. If it's not there, if it's not on the claim, it'll default to whatever. If it's a Quest case, it's going to default to whatever's in Quest. If it's in workflow, it's going to default to whatever's in workflow. And if it's a inquiry, we don't have any claim information. So this is kind of all the information. This kind of information that's here in the claim table.
Yeah, so I think what might confuse some folks on the phone is, so you got a Quest case or a workflow task, and we're going to see those records down in the inventory table, I believe. But basically, for all those Quest cases and workflow tasks, they all have a claim number, right? So we go to Diamond to pull in some claim details that they wanted us to include in these reports. So the iClaim table has the claim details for those claims, but the actual inventory items that those claims belong to is in the iInventory table. Is that right, Malik?
That's correct. Yep. Mm-hmm.
So think of it as kind of splitting the inventory items up a little bit as we put them in these tables, with the claim data being one place, and then the inventory is where you're going to see the Quest and the workflow attributes, and they'll tie together based on the claim number.
Yep. The reason for that is because, the one day it might be just in Quest. You have a claim number, but you don't really have, and you have a lot of the claim information, but you don't have something like hold codes and stuff like that. Right? It's not an actual claim. Then the next day it gets submitted, right? And it's a held claim case instead of an entry exception. Right. So the next day it shows up. And so the next day with that same record is going to pull up and it's going to, hey, okay, it's a held claim case. Here's the codes that are on the held claim for that, So it's going to get the information based off of what's on the held claim and that's why it's in the different table for that. And of course, so that we can understand, we're also bringing in what data entitlement this is for the claim information. It does have a interesting little feature that the business likes, is that it does in one field, it's going to list, I think, up to 10 of the active hold codes, and with an indicator saying, hey, we've got hold codes on a claim, so that they can look and see, like, and they will use that for, like, especially for, this was a COVID one that they did, but they'll trend some of these codes, because all they have to do on the report is search, type in a code, and they'll find all the records that have that thing in it. It's pretty neat. But it does, I won't get into details how it does it.
For filtering?
Yeah, filter.
You can see like a whole code, and it would filter based on this column?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yep.
I don't remember that. That's cool.
Mm-hmm. Yep. I'll show it to you guys a little bit later. For Code Map Master, this is kind of like a parameter table. For certain queues, we want it to, I can't remember what we were doing for high dollar. Oh, this is stuff that's dealing with, for high dollars, for like if it's in missed routes, but I won't speak to that just now. For inquiries for ICS, because the line of business will not come in like we're expected, like in 3 digits. So it'll say like Advantage 65, well, that's CCG and stuff like that or whatever. It'll literally say group blue options instead of GBO. So this allows it to translate what's coming in from ICS into something that is understandable and matchable to the diamond claim. This is just a translation there.
So this is a master table. We are not loading from Quest, right? This we are maintaining just for reporting,
right?
Yeah,
exactly, just for reporting. Okay. This is completely manual, configure, updatable by users.
Okay.
There is, let me see. So there's something in here called queue owner. So for queue owner, you notice that it says, hey, for all these lines of business. That means if there's nobody on the assigned to a piece of work, there's no manager, there's no user, there's no nothing. At the end of the day, the buck is going to stop with the RACFs of these people. So if there's nobody else assigned and it's a Medicare and more, it's going to be this I2Y9. It's going to fall under their bucket of work. And so when they filter, that record is going to actually come up under their stuff if they were to check. So I think most of these is Dexter. I think Dexter is G5NN or something like that.
So if you are adding any new line of business or any new high dollar queues, we need to update this table, right?
Well, not high, unless it's a line of business.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah. So the FEP VIP is the next one that I could think of that's on the table to be a, that's not technically not even a new line of business. Something regarding, I can't remember, but if it is a new line of business, like a FVP or whatever, then that's got to be added to this table.
Okay.
Isn't it PEP, new line of business, Patrick?
Is it BHP? What is it?
PEP, Postal Employee Program, that's coming for next year.
That's coming next year.
Yeah.
But we added HPN or BHP or whatever for the high performing network in December, right? Wasn't there some new line of business added this past December? Allison,
what?
HPN?
Yeah, it's the high performing network.
Yeah,
HPN.
It's not here.
Is it BHP or?
It's BHP.
Oh, well, yeah, that's probably going to need to be added.
Yeah.
Sorry, I'm talking on mute. Yes.
Okay, thank you. I couldn't remember if it's HPN or BHP. Seems like they talked about both or whatever, but anyway, looks like maybe that wire was missed.
Yeah.
These are just parameters, right?
Yeah.
Parameters.
Mm-hmm. These are just parameters. And this is only going to, it's only going to come up if nobody else is assigned to the work.
Okay, that's why it hasn't probably, had any problem yet.
Yeah, no, for all the other stuff, it's gonna come. For all the other stuff, it's going to straight move the line of business over, so it'll take care of itself. So the new line of business doesn't cause too much problems unless there's something specific that has to go along with it. But if it were to happen where nobody was assigned to it, it would never be found. It just would be in limbo until somebody did something with it to move it along.
Okay, so let me make sure I understand. So, because I saw another place, right? We had the group queues and the owner for the group queues, right? So you're saying if an inventory item in Quest or workflow is in a group queue, it'll reflect as the queue owner. Basically, is the name that they would see, and then their manager and director and everything. If it's in a person's queue, then obviously it's that person who it would reflect under as the owner of that work item. And then so now you're saying that in these scenarios where there's it's not in a queue. So like the earlier example we gave was if it's staged for BPA, and I don't remember exactly how we handled that, but I think it checks the BPAN table, and if that inventory item for Quest is loaded there, it reflects under some fictitious queue name. I forget what it's called, if it's no owner or pending BPA or something like that. So those would probably reflect under the owner. I think we made me the owner, I think, for that maybe or something.
Yep, you are the owner for no owner. That's correct. Yep.
Okay. So then there's some other scenario then.
Yeah, think inquiries. Think inquiries now, right?
So inquiries where there's a location owner, same kind of thing. The owner of the location would reflect if it was there. If it was assigned to a person, it would be there. But there must be some place.
Yeah, but remember in here, this is still in Quest, right? So there's a ton of locations, right, that do not have inquiry locations that do not have owners.
Okay. They were supposed to fill all those out.
They don't. They've never done it, right? So look here. So here, right? Yeah. Well, it's never happened ever in the history of this whole thing. So here, look, the very first one, right? There is no owner assigned for this one, right? And so.
The hot potato queues. Nobody wants to own them.
Right. And so in this one right here, I guarantee you this person, this is the RACF is hardwired into BPAN, the BPAN table. And so it comes over, but this, they probably can't find this RACF in the system anywhere, which is why this has unknown user all the way throughout that. So it's that stale, nobody changed it. Right?